in the day we live in under this new covenant, that if you're doing well, if you're giving all diligence, making your call and election sure, if you're walking upright before God, he knows it. He knows. He knew here. He knew what Cain was doing, and he went to him. And he actually told him, if you do well. This is a good thing. Joseph's reasons with Potiphar's wife, but see, sin is unreasonable. She was unreasonable. Why? Because, see, she was serving sin. She was serving a different master than what Joseph was, and it didn't seem so reasonable to her. He reasoned. He said, he's put everything in my hands. I can't do this great sin against my God. I can't do this. Didn't make any sense to Joseph. It made sense to her, though. See, she totally disregarded. Her master was good to her. I mean, everything belonged to her, and yet it seemed more reasonable to her. See, sin will do that. If you're around someone, and this is hypothetical, if you can see the sense in not sinning, you can see what a great example you can be to anyone that can see you. Anyone, look at the example that Joseph was, and look what it cost him. 12, 13 years of his life? Because he decided, I'm not going to do that. Well, he was actually recompensed later, wasn't he? For as much then as Christ has suffered for us in the flesh, arm yourselves. See, why would Paul talk like this if this was just automatic? Why would we have to arm ourselves against this, the environment around us, the way people think, if it wasn't important? He says, arm yourself likewise with the same mind, for he that has suffered in flesh hath ceased from sin. So this is very, very important in the kingdom that we think about sin the right way. In the day we live in, there's a lot of loose thinking about sin. It's like, well, God can handle your anger. And they say a lot of things that if you're not careful and on your guard and have the same mind as Christ, then see, you can kind of erode the way you think about sin, and it won't be so harsh. It won't seem so harsh. God's made a way in the person of Jesus Christ for us to escape the dominion of sin. Well, then I say, live in accordance with that escape plan. See, we're clean escape them that live in error. Well, this new and living way, it's having dominion over sin. See, I was rejoicing this whole week over this. We don't have to serve sin anymore. Of course, Satan won't say that. Satan comes and he tries to make excuses and reasons why. Well, you see, now wait a minute. And I actually had somebody tell me, you got to be really careful with talking like this, because people will lose their confidence, because, you know, as we all know, everyone sins. But you see, that's the wrong attitude. We've been delivered from sin. And so, see, as you look at sin, knowing that I've been delivered from it, and I have the power to say no, and I don't have to do it, that changes the way you look at it. And that's Paul's point. See, this is what Paul's producing a cause not to sin. Not to say, well, you know, we know that we just can't help ourselves. But see, this is dangerous. It's dangerous to have an attitude of, well, it doesn't really make any difference. God understands. God's even made a provision. Let's just go ahead. Let's sin that grace may abound. God forbid. That's what God says. Amen. Paul asked the question, how shall we? Because we need to ask the question, how shall we? When you're looking at sin, say, how can I do this? How? It gives you a sharp edge on your sword. It gives you a sharp answer to Satan when he tries to tempt you away. When he tries to make sin look appealing, how shall we that are dead to sin live any longer therein? See, it actually gives you, it arms you for the battle. It gives you what you need to be able to overcome. And after you've overcome, oh, I tell you, on that day of judgment, when you're standing there and you've overcome, see, there will be a day coming when overcoming will be like the most important thing. Like I stood against it. You armed me. You gave me all the resources, but Lord, I stood against it in the evil day. Well, this will be very, very relevant then. Let not sin. Why does he say it like this? Because you can let it. See, we're living in a time when you can let sin reign in your mortal body. So what does Paul do? He says, let not sin reign in your mortal body. Why? Because if you don't not let it, it will do it. That's like the default mode for flesh. It lets sin reign. It's like, see, that's the easy road. Let sin reign. No, he says, let not sin therefore reign in your mortal body. Don't let it do it. Well, that sounds like we're involved in it. Sounds like we have something to do with it, and we can choose. I'm not going to yield my members to sin any longer. Well, I was really blessed with those considerations, brother. Let's have a word of prayer.